Edith Piaf, a sparrow turned phoenix,
wrote Marlene Dietrich about her friend.
Edith was never a beauty. She had a sense of inferiority because of her unattractiveness, as she herself believed.
Continued Marlene.
She regarded her figure without indulgence and critically observed, not a Venus.
Edith Piaf often spoke about what specifically bothered her about her appearance.
Breasts sag, bottom is low, and my buttocks are like a chicken feed. Yes, not fresh anymore. But for a man, it's still a gift.
This quote comes from Piaf's stepsister, Bird Simone. But something elusive in photographs, yet distinctly palpable in real life. Her gazes, her voice, an energy that swept everything away, attracted to this diminutive woman the finest and most handsome men of her time. She was never alone. Men accompanied her throughout her life. Charles Aznavour, Jacques Pils, Yves Montand, Jean Cocteau, Jean Marais. Yet, the love of her life became Marcel Cerdan. Piaf drove crowds of men crazy. She easily and regularly fell in love and discarded lovers.
One must leave a man before he starts thinking of leaving. When love cools down, it needs to be reignited or discarded. It's not a product that can be stored in a cool place.
She often said to her friends. That was true until she truly fell in love with Marcel Cerdan, in whom she found what she had been searching for her entire life. Strength, tenderness, care, and passion.
I couldn't count all my lovers on my 10 fingers. It's very easy to throw a stone at me, but I've always searched for someone I could lean on, someone I could trust completely. I searched and couldn't find. I'd like them to speak of me as they do of Mary Magdalene. Much will be forgiven her, for she loved much.
Edith Piaf herself stated. Next to the tall, muscular boxer, Piaf, whose height barely reached 4 feet 7 inches, looked like a little girl. And the champion gazed at her with undisguised adoration. He believed that there was something supernatural in the singer's talent.
Edith, you weigh only a third of me. I could blow on you, and you'd scatter. But what a voice you have. It defies belief.
Quand il me prend dans ses bras, qu'il me parle tout bas, je vois la viande.
The beloved one radiated happiness because she had found her hero, a colossal man who adored her and was ready to do anything for her. Moreover, he became the first man who spent money on her, and not the other way around. The champion bought his lover her first mink coat, which she wore with delight. And it was not about the price. The famous singer could buy 10 such coats.
I would never have thought of it myself in my life, but he figured it out.
A happy Edith told her friends. In return, she showered Marcel with expensive suits, crocodile leather shoes, diamond cufflinks, and tie clips. Yet, the most precious of her gifts were the sweaters she knitted herself. However, the boxer couldn't leave his wife and 3 sons, just as he couldn't hide his affair with the singer. Edith Piaf never wanted to take her beloved away from his family. Yes, she was horribly unhappy that they couldn't become husband and wife, but she thought it better that she be unhappy than her beloved's children. She said,
Innocents shouldn't suffer. I know we are infinitely unhappy. If Marcel didn't have children, everything would seem much simpler. One woman or another, a struggle with equal chances. But the situation was different.
Journalists, of course, learned about everything. To quickly get rid of their intrusive attention, the champion arranged a press conference where, without waiting for questions, he declared that Edith was his lover and a lover, only because he was married. The next day after this, probably the shortest press conference, there wasn't a single word about the famous couple in the newspapers, but the singer received an incredibly large basket of flowers with a note that read, "From gentlemen to the woman they love most in the world." When her beloved tried to defend his European middleweight champion title but lost, the newspaper France Dimanche published an article titled "Piaf brings unhappiness to Cerdan." The tone of the publication, telling the story of this couple, was quite ambiguous. Cerdan meets with Piaf daily, she attends all his matches, and he listens to her singing every evening. Edith attracts Marcel in the sense that she talks to him about music, literature, poetry, which is all new to him. The boxer's wife, Marinette, sent him a telegram from Casablanca.
"It's over between us. I'm filing for divorce."
To which he replied.
If you leave home, I'll cut off your head.
In a letter to his wife, he only insisted on their heartfelt friendship with Piaf, and nothing more. The loving wife pretended to believe his words. In the late summer of 1948, Marcel, arriving in the USA for a world champion title fight, began training in a sports camp. Here, a strict sports regime was observed, both in terms of food and interactions with women. Violation was punishable by disqualification. However, the singer couldn't bear the separation and found herself in America 3 days later, 2 weeks before the start of her tour in Canada. And they spent those days together. Cerdan rented a bungalow near the sports camp and secretly brought Edith there. For 10 days, the star lived illegally in that little house with closed curtains, without hot water and electricity, surviving on tea and sandwiches. At night, she met with her beloved, and they were happy. Then, just as secretly, Piaf left her hiding place and went on her Canadian tour, which was a resounding success, while Marcel Cerdan won the world champion title fight. Piaf was among the spectators of that match. When the referee raised Marcel Cerdan's hand in victory, the singer, out of excitement, tore the hat of the person sitting next to her. There were also rumors that after celebrating his victory, the world champion went to the singer's New York apartment on Park Avenue, walking on a carpet of rose petals scattered from the elevator to Edith's door. In the same year, Piaf wrote the lyrics to her famous song The Hymn to Love, dedicated to her beloved Marcel. Edith was on tour in New York when Marcel booked a ticket on a ship to New York, where he was soon to have a rematch for the championship title. Yearning for each other, Edith called her beloved in Paris.
Marcel, come quickly by plane, I can't be without you.
All right, my dear, I'll fly out tomorrow. I love you.
Around the Azov Islands, his plane suffered a crash. All the passengers and crew perished. Edith stood backstage at the Versailles Hall in New York, preparing for her performance. At that moment, she was informed that the airliner on which her beloved was flying had crashed, and Marcel was among the deceased passengers. His body was identified by the watches he habitually wore on both wrists. No one thought that the great Piaf would be able to sing after such news, but she found the strength within herself, stepped onto the stage, and with a voice choked, trembling from emotion and tears, she said,
I will sing in honor of Marcel Cerdan. Only for him.
And she sang her famous hymn to love, dedicated to her beloved. And she sang with such intensity that the audience went wild. After her performance, she was carried off the stage unconscious. Later, in memory of her beloved, the singer wrote a song called The Beautiful Love Story. Never again was the prima donna in love with a man she considered her equal. Edith Piaf drowned her soul's pain in the strongest antidepressants. Once strong, courageous, and resolute, now the singer was broken. The price of this love proved too high for her. It not only brought Edith happiness, but also left an unhealing wound in her soul. In despair, Edith turned to drinking. Dressed in old clothes, she wandered the streets, singing to passers-by. Piaf seemed to have lost her mind. And then, a telegram arrived in Paris. Marcel's wife, Marcel Cerdan, urgently asked Edith to come to Casablanca. After a few days, she flew there. In Morocco, two women who had loved the same man became friends. From 1951 to 1963, Edith experienced 4 car accidents, 1 suicide attempt, 4 detoxification treatments, 1 sleep treatment, 3 hypnotic comas, 1 bout of insanity, 2 bouts of septicemia, 7 surgeries, 2 bronchopneumonias, and 1 lung edema, as described by her stepsister Bird Simone. Now she was almost constantly in hospitals and would only come out for a couple of days to give another concert in Paris. Piaf weighed 72 pounds, her legs had dried up, and there was barely any hair left on her head. But despite everything, in the breaks between hospitals, she still went on stage, even when she couldn't unclench her arthritis-ridden hands, and she wouldn't leave even in a semi-unconscious state. A few days before her death, against the doctor's orders, Piaf appeared before the audience. At her final concert, she performed the song No, I Regret Nothing. On October 10th, the heart of the little sparrow stopped beating. Her body was secretly transported from Grasse to Paris, so the official announcement of the singer's death was made only the next day. On that same day, Jean Cocteau passed away too. It was rumored that he fell ill after hearing the news of the departure of his longtime friend and former lover.
I led a terrible life, that's true. But I loved my life so much. And I loved people. My lovers, my friends, as well as strangers who made up my audience, for whom I sang, often overcoming myself. For whom I wanted to die on stage, having sung my last song.
She was buried in the Père Lachaise cemetery. The Vatican forbade a requiem mass for the sinner, but 40,000 French people came to bid farewell to the great singer and mourn her. Edith Piaf, a small but strong woman.
Non, rien de rien. regrette rien.
Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing. Have a great day.